Hi everyone. So I just wanted to follow on from my previous video where I was talking about planning and the different aspects in which tools can be used to assist that. So this particular tool is Microsoft Projects. So it's essentially like a Gantt chart for sort of simpler use and simpler terms. And it's what we'd call a program in sort of construction or property development terms. So just to get started, what you usually have is you have your activities down the side. You then have your duration, you have your start date, your finish date, and then you have your predecessors. So essentially what a predecessor is it's the activity that comes before the next activity. So for example, just looking at this here, you've got this line here, number 12. The predecessor to number 12 is number 11. So essentially, number 11 follows on into number 12. So sort of relatively simple once you get your head around it. So if I zoom out a little bit here, you can see on the further side there, you've got dates across the top, and you've got these bars. So the bars are the durations, and then the lines interlink the different bars, which the bars are obviously activities that I mentioned. So that's essentially what a Microsoft Projects is used for. It allows you to input data, and it will give you an end date essentially with all your durations added in. You can go into a lot more detail. You can add calendars, you can have, say, 7-day working, you can put all bank holidays in, you can put Christmas holidays in, etc. So quite useful in that sense. And also, if you say get delayed on an activity, you can change the start date or the duration, and then essentially it will push everything out. Anywhere where you can see a red bar here like this, that effectively means that it's on the line of critical path. So that means that activity must be started and completed on that date to make sure that you hit your end date of your project. Trying to think if there's anything else to sort of run through. Essentially, as I was mentioning in my last video, you can break down the activity into greater detail, so you should be able to see that there. So sort of the overall activity is launch shaft excavation. So then for that activity, you've then got to excavate the shaft for 10 meters, install dowels, 2 rings, and pull the collar. Each of I slide across there, you've got durations and you've got start dates again, along with the predecessors. So that ultimately, that sort of block there is essentially the individual tasks to achieve that specific top line task. And that's the way it is. The way in which else you can use this, you can do Gantt charts, and you can do it in Excel quite similarly. So you'd have your activities down the side, you'd have your durations, but where you've got these bars, you'd still put the durations in your start and end dates, but it just wouldn't sort of spit it out automatically and calculate it for you. So you'd have to put these bars, and sort of the bars would have to essentially run into one another, and then any overlaps, you'd have the dates at the top, so it's a bit more time consuming. But on a small project and sort of top line details, it's more than easy and capable to do. So if you've got any questions specifically on this, feel free to drop them in the comments, and I'll be more than happy to answer. And then if you want a copy of any programs that I've got from past projects over the past 10 years, send me a message and I'll be more than happy to send 1 or 2 on to you, so you've got a visual of what this is and how it helps to work towards your overall end goal on the project. As I say, it's a complex system. You can have all sorts in there. You can add labour for each task. You can, it's endless. So you can have extra columns on the side, so you can have percentage complete for each activity, which is also good when you're monitoring progress. And you can sort of see whether you're starting to fall behind. So say you might estimate the work to be 83% complete, but you've only got 2 days to do it. Is that going to be enough to achieve that completion date or not. You know, it sort of starts to flag these things up. Another thing that you can do is you can baseline it. So from your first program, you can set a baseline, and then after that, each amendment that you make, you can see how your program changes, which is another good way to manage progress and plan ahead. So great planning tool to have in your locker, so to speak, and use, sort of readily available to download through Microsoft, which is, you know, sort of handy, works on pretty much all devices these days. So brilliant tool to have. You can keep it as simple or as complex as possible. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Without sort of going into too much detail, and sat behind the laptop one thing, it's a bit more interactive. So to make it relatable to property, essentially, if you're doing, say, a flip project or a buy refurbish refinance projects, the first activity in there that you may have for once the works commence is, say, strip out. Then you may have taken the plaster back to brick. Then you might be looking at a rewire, and so on and so forth. Or if you're, say, doing an extension on property, you may then look at performing the groundworks, and then that's effectively digging the trenches. Then you might have concreting works for the foundations, and then your block work construction on top of that, and so on and so forth. So that's just a little example of how you can make it relatable to anything that you do. Effectively, it's just setting out each task and activity with a time duration, the dates in which you want to achieve it by, and any activities which may have a knock-on effect. So essentially, you can't start the activity until the previous one's been completed, or maybe activities further down that can be started when another one higher up is started, so you gain a bit of an advantage in that sense. Hopefully that helps. Any comments, like I say, just drop me a message and I'd be more than happy to